Let's get custom, yo. You love custom shoes? You love custom wheels? You love a custom burger? Well, how about a custom node in your N8N automated agentic workflow? All right, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about HTTP requests. HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is basically the language we use to communicate at the drive-thru. It's the standard way computers ask for and get information from anything online, all right? Which includes, of course, websites and other online services. So when you think of HTTP, you need to think of methods. Everything we're doing here, when we do WhatsApp trigger and we get this node, when we have an OpenAI chat model, we're essentially sending requests out to these services and these APIs. It's just being handled for us under the hood by N8N. We don't have to write that code in particular because we live in a beautiful world of 2025, 2026, etc. Right? Now, if there is something which N8N can't provide, it goes a step even further. It doesn't just limit you to what they have. You can actually build with no code or very low code your own HTTP requests. How do we do it? Well, you see this plus button. If we click on the plus button and type in HTTP, you get this nice HTTP node, which makes an HTTP request and returns the response data. This is in a computer science class on how the internet works. Fundamentally, methods are one of the most important aspects of understanding requests. Methods. What is the type of request you want to use? Do you want to get stuff online? Do you want to delete stuff? Do you want to post, which is just fancy for send, all right? And then you see these other ones like head options, put, patch. Head is basically like a lightweight version of get. We don't have to worry about that. Options, you're going to ask the server to tell you which HTTP methods, like what can I do here? We don't have to worry about that. Put is like basically if you want to update, like replace existing resources on a server. And this is type of CRUD which is important to master when you're dealing with database server updates. And that's important for agentic AI as well, because yeah, if you're having AI doing stuff on the front end or doing stuff with your emails on the business client side, then why not have it updating the databases as well? And that means it is important for you to have an overall understanding of the basics. But have the core fundamental down, all right? Methods, it's basically like saying, I want to see this information. I want to send this information. I want to do something with the server, okay? So that's the method. The URL, this is the address, right? It's the thing that you want. Like we're on an URL right here. We're in the app N8N cloud. We're in a URL. We can add authentication because remember, if we want to grab a URL, hopefully you're putting the pieces together. This URL would go in URL, right? This is what we want. So this input should be coming in from our WhatsApp business output. And remember, we tried to access this output and it did nothing. It did nothing, I say, because we couldn't. Now with the HTTP request, we can grab the URL, put it in here. We were going to use a get method because we want to get this file. Because remember, there's an audio file. That's the whole point of this. And we can authenticate. This is beautiful, by the way. We can actually use a predefined credential, which is what? Well, hopefully you guessed, our WhatsApp API. And so you want to connect to your appropriate WhatsApp API. And if we scroll down for add options, remember the thing that we want is a special type of response. We don't just want information. We want the file. So we can add the option for response. And the response format, instead of auto-detecting, we want that file. And we want that file as data. So let's test this and see if this is enough authentication, or if in the headers we're going to have to send a further authorization. So we're going to run a test setup, and we're getting this error that the resource can't be found. And I'm thinking maybe it's blocking us from being found because we are not including the headers. So the header is basically like an extra piece of information that we need to send along with the request. So we have the WhatsApp credential, but we also need to pass in the header. It's not part of the URL itself, but it's like extra instructions that comes with it. Essentially, that's what the headers do. So we can have a header here. We can put the name, we're going to call it authorization, and the value, or you know what? Let's write it in JSON because we've had practice with JSON before. And since we're getting all technical and this is supposed to be a bit more advanced, we're going to switch from fixed to expression. All right, we're going to have a JSON object. So we start with an array, which is also object. All right, but it's index value based object. And then in that, which is our object format. All right, and we're going to put some tabs because it's going to look better. And in here, we're having strings. Everything in strings need to be in quotations. So we have to pass in a name. The name, so these are key pair values in the object, right? So the key has to be in string format, and the value is going to be authorization. So these are called key pairs because every key has a value. So name, so think of this as like if this was a person, think of it like objects are a blueprint of things, of objects. It could be any kind of object. Like if it was a person, this would be nose and the type of nose, or eyes, blue, you know, car, Ferrari, name, authorization. It's as simple as that, guys. Value, okay, let's do another one. So you get the name, and then the value of the authorization is going to be our access token. We're going to pass it in explicitly. So I don't want to show you that, but you got to go back to your cloud and copy it. I'm not going to show you mine. That was funny to me. It's not dirty. Okay. That should not be dirty. All right, I'm going to paste it in, but I don't want you to see. Paste in mine in, and we're going to run a test setup again. And I'm running into an error because headers must be valid HTTP token. Okay, so we have to make sure that we switch this to using JSON. So you want to make the array, you make the object. Oops, let's make that big. You put the array, you make the object, you put the name value, you just write authorization. Remember, key pair values. Good to practice this a few times anyway. So, and then the value here, we're going to put the token. All right, we're using JSON. So put in your token and try it again. And we're saying the resource can't be found. I'm thinking maybe it was deleted from the storage at this point. So we're going to have to, let's run the test again. Make sure we save. Let's run the test flow. And let's say another voice note. Wow, Wednesdays are the best. Please tell me a way to make this day go faster. That out. All right, so it's executing. Workflow successfully executed. If I open up the workflow now, take a look at that. Now we have a data. We've got the file name, the file extension, the MIME type audio, and the file size. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we may not have needed to add the headers as well with the instructions. Maybe the credential type is doing it. Putting it in for safekeeping. Either way, I think the file remained in a temporary place, and then who knows? WhatsApp Business Cloud might have all sorts of optimizations to reduce storage space when they deem that the file should no longer be stored on their cloud specifically, and then stored on copies that are accessible via API. Who knows? Who cares? The point is that if it's working for us and we understand how it works and how we can access it in the context of what we're building, that's what counts. So you should now have that data type, all right? And it's downloadable. So this data, if we view it... Wow, Wednesdays are the best. Please tell me a way to make this day go faster. There you go. There it is, all right? So now that's working. Let's stop here. That's a win. You should have yours. You should get this running. Make sure you have this up and running. Try to make this cleaned up a little bit so the flow looks nice. Always a bonus. Have a nice looking model, workflow model. And don't forget to save. Stop here. In the next lesson, I don't like how this one looks like that. That just looks kind of weird to me. But in the next lesson, let's go ahead and convert this file to binary, and then it's AI agent party city heaven, because we're going to have our own personal agent. We don't have to type anymore with our fingers like baboons. We can use our mouths, like the way that civil society always intended us to do, or something. I'll see you there.